Greetings and salutations, all you beautiful individuals. It is another epi of League on Fly. Derek and Mark here with you guys for yet another spicy little recap of a weekend that was with, we got some magical runs and some tragic ends to runs over the weekend. And I think a completely level-headed and reasonable take over the weekend is that now Los Ratones are better than Hanwha Life. Hanwha Life is a 10th place bottom feeder in the LCK, and Los Ratones are beating two of the best teams in Europe in MKOI and G2.
I'm not quite sure I'm going to be that bold. I'm not going to be that bold with a statement, but absolutely, I don't think we'd be at this point in the year where Los Ratones still running through games, and Hanwha Life, no more games for the squad in the LCK. Absolutely a crazy weekend to dive into, so let's jump right into it.
Listen, 0-4 start for Los Ratones, and everyone's memeing, why are these guys even in the league? What a joke format by the LEC. 4 wins later, and in the fashion, the excitement that they brought to the MKOI, and especially the dramatic G2 Wombo combo with Baus running in on Kled, and I mean, you're going to be seeing that clip played throughout the entirety of the year. But the hype that this team is bringing to best of one's middle of the first split, and where people are as excited as like it's a playoff run.
And thankfully for the fire safety code people out there, it has cooled down a little bit on the hype level. It was at a super hot type of level after the G2 victory, of course.
You knew they were going to get pumped by Na'Vi after they won those first two.
Yeah, but I think some of the mistakes were a little bit worse than you were maybe expecting in that Na'Vi game, and to be as uncompetitive, I think, as they were compared to the previous 4 games, which was the win streak. That one is going to cool things down for people a little bit, and you can have more of a reasonable discussion about Los Ratones. But absolutely, the Tonys are soaring, and they're soaring to heights that no one would have expected them to get. And I think, again, that number 1 point is that G2 win for Los Ratones. That game, that performance from everybody all across the board, and that domination. They had G2 running all the way right from the start of the match.
Yeah, and 3 out of these 4 wins now are kind of comebacks or somewhat miraculous, at least winning a fight or an extended skirmish objective trade that they really have absolutely no business winning. The Kled was fantastic out of Baus. Nemesis has been unironically like a top 3 mid laner the last 2 weeks in the LEC.
He's very clearly been at that level that I think a lot of us expected and were hoping him to be at this point. Because, again, to be away from the scene from the amount of time that he had been, there certainly could be questions as far as what type of product, what type of high level are you going to get from him. I think a lot of people still believe that there was this type of talent here, and to see it now with this group, with this experiment that is Los Ratones, and finding that type of push and power at the LEC level, very much so a good result for the fans here.
And I think already these 9 games in, the LEC is going, okay, great. How do we keep these guys in for Split 2, or how do we somehow carry this momentum? I know most of these guys have already kind of said we're done after this split playing on Los Ratones, but things have got to be going so well that Riot and Cadril and everyone involved is like, we got to keep this miracle run going.
You have over 400,000 plus live viewers, Western English audience viewers tuning in for this. And we haven't had that since probably the absolute peaks. And I mean, maybe even the peaks of a Cloud9 TSM type of rivalry here in North America could be the only thing that could have rivaled that type of viewership numbers that Los Ratones is bringing to the LEC. Yes, I think there is absolutely legitimacy to the conversation about not paying your dues, the money, the finance, all those other messy sides about having a spot in the LEC. But I think the numbers, the viewership, the attention, all these things that the Los Ratones and Cadril are bringing to your region, to this league, you cannot ignore it. And you have to be able to capitalize and continue this in some fashion, whether that is this 5 starting members of Los Ratones or whatever, you got to find a way to incorporate this into split 2 and 3. Otherwise, it will be a dramatic drop off at that point.
And the other side of that opening statement we made, Los Ratones, they get pumped by Navi. Are we actually saying they're better than Hanwha Life? No, of course not. But we, of course, have to talk about the writing was in the script. It was going to happen. Hanwha Life, the first team eliminated from the LCK Cup after getting swept by Gen G. And make no mistake, this was a very different sweep than what T1 did to D+ the day before, because that was absolute massacre on the Rift. D+ never had any chance in any of those games. Gen G, we were talking, maybe they could win in under 34 minutes in this second game and clinch a spot. No, they can't even win the game. But this is still more a horrible format, but absolutely an underperformance and disappointing start for this star-studded HLE squad.
There certainly is a valid conversation about the format for the LCK Cup and the fact that the Bros are going on through at an 0-5 winless record type of thing. Absolutely. Very legitimate conversations about that. But to simply write it off, Mickey Mouse, whatever type of tournament, this is fake, it's got too many things that... I think that is absolutely avoiding the conversation about this failure for Hanwha Life at this point, because frankly, it does need to be discussed. There has been, yes, a small, limited sample size of games, but enough that you can make one of these type of conclusions, make these type of things on this roster. And right now, I can clearly identify not having Peanut, not having that shot calling, not having that strategy and vocal guy on the squad, that hasn't been replaced for this team, and having that vacuum there has caused some of these problems, some of these fumbles and starts that you see with this Hanwha Life team. Why they're not able to reach the heights that T1, that Gen G are able to get to, even though you look at the parts on this team and you go, yeah, you've got it. You've got Zaze, you've got Guma, Gazeka, you got all these high quality parts here that should be able to work. But you don't have the strategy behind it all. You don't have the order set out by that veteran, and that is clearly an issue in the structure and chemistry of how this team wants to operate.
And now you said you've been hearing people say, God, I got to bring in Barrel, the general, to be the director for this squad. I really hope there's not some sweeping overreactions on this roster, that they do make some changes going forward. It's still a small 5 games or 5 series, small sample size to go on. And I mean, the real tragedy is now it's going to be 2 months before we see Kuma, Zeus, and the boys on the Rift again.
Yeah, that one is the actual real pain point. And now I will present a little bit of hopium, copium, whatever you want to take it for this angle in the LCK. T1 able to survive last year, going through a very similar type of situation and ending up having such a long break and all that time. We questioned whether you could keep pace, whether you could stay competitive in the LCK. Well, not only were they the world champions, and of course very much so competitive, they were very strong through that second split and at MSI. So that has to be the formula that you are hoping to achieve if you are Hanwha Life at this point. But yeah, absolutely. I think that the answer has to be that you stick with this 5. I think there is enough potential and high level of skill that you run it back with this squad. And if you need to make that adjustment, need to make that evaluation that, you know what, we need some more structure, some more shot calling in here, you make that choice in the offseason moving into 2027, I think has to be the proper protocol if you are Hanwha Life.
And you mentioned T1. It's honestly surprising the level that they're at right now. And we often compare a squad like G2 and T1, Caps, Faker, G2 is the T1 of EU, blah, blah, blah. But it really feels like this start to the split for G2, a little slower, lethargic, Caps making some uncharacteristic mistakes. That's how I expected T1 to be starting this year, is easing into things. We know it's not till the middle of the year they really start to level up, but it feels like G2 has that T1 cosplay going on, and T1 is already in Worlds form.
I think that there is a little bit of secret sauce behind it for T1, why we're not getting some of these lackluster, slow starting performances, strange things from this roster, is Pace stepping into this lineup, and more importantly, Gumayushi leaving this organization and how significant that was as a move. I think it's a combination effect of Zeus the year before being a significant departure for this team and the organization, but the wombo combo of Guma the very next year and what Guma meant to this organization and to the fan base. But to replace it with Pace and the focus and skill from this team absolutely has to be that answer. I think this has been the resounding response from Faker and the rest of the remaining T1 members, Owner and Kyria, to show out and showcase what the T1 organization is all about. And apparently, that's a dominant force in the LCK.
Yeah, and obviously incredibly heavy lifting from Gen.G and T1, going a combined 10-0 to have their Group Baron win that first bit of the LCK Cup. But at least they're avoiding the play-in by going 5-0, because that was a potential if someone did end up, if things went a little bit differently to close out the LCK Cup. We do have a little bit of throwback performance in the LCS. We got that marquee Cloud9 versus Lyon Gaming at 1-0. And who knew Sven still had these level of mechanics, and we get I hate to call it vintage because he's still a young player, but peak APA performance in this matchup.
We're talking about all chat performance or on Rift performance from your
Typing
boy,
was the MVP, forcing your boy Berserker to mute him. You know he's in his head.
Which, come on, that is absolutely a lack of preparation, lack of coaching staff, whatever, to let Berserker step back into the LCS and not be aware that that's the first step. If it's going to bother you, you know it's APA. He's going to bring it. Mute him. Get into that one right away. Set yourself up in the right settings. Didn't happen. Had to have that whole little conversation, get that little effect from him. And, of course, you talked about it. Sven turning back time a little bit of OG Neil's hands action out there on Summoner's Rift. Always love to see that is still capable from Sven, and I think is going to be an important part for this Cloud9 team, that is able to be a viable strategy, an option for them within draft, because I think that will open up other options for other members of this team, and specifically as well, very happy to see the clutch play, the big play, while Lyon was starting to make their comeback, starting to push back and find traction in the game. APA shuts it down with the Talia shuffle.
And really the whole team was that clutch factor, and it's not a surprising result considering, you know, we had this entire Korean boot camping Kespa Cup thing that Cloud9 did. They've had a lot of off-season ramp up compared to this Lion squad.
Yeah, I think that is also one of the things that did come through within this one. It has been kind of present again throughout the entire start of this LCS, is seeing that growth from that Kespa Cup iteration of Cloud9 and how that roster was functioning and performing. Seeing it now, obviously, you've seen some changes. You've seen growth. You've seen chemistry be built on this team, and that is, again, an extra value that you get in this situation that others maybe aren't able to equate onto Summoner's Rift. And frankly, very happy that has come through from Cloud9, because again, that's one of the things that we were happy to see Cloud9 and Team Liquid participate in something like that, get that type of thing. And this is one of the advantages we talked about is available to you if you do so. So happy to see it come through for Cloud9.
And joining Cloud9, maybe surprisingly, at that 2-0 winner's side are the boys, the young kids from FlyQuest, who were, I mean, truthfully, one kind of yucky Baron throw away from yet another clean 2-0, but we got to see some pop-off laning stuff out of Masu and Griffin. If he keeps this up, let me tell you, this guy is rocketing himself into that conversation alongside guys like Blabber and Inspired in terms of LCS junglers.
Oh man, this is crazy. This is the accelerated LCS timeline right now, because I tell you, I heading into this year, maybe halfway through Split 2, Split 3 at that point, I thought that's when FlyQuest might become a factor. You get a couple games, you're starting to build yourself up, some experience, some coaching work, all sorts of things, to then eventually hit more of your stride at this point. But man, oh man, right out of the gates, the kids are all right on FlyQuest. Yes, the veteran the veteran on this roster in Masu delivering from the bottom lane. Love
The
to see that for the
at
squad.
21 years old. Yeah.
We can do. I gotta revoke that one. No unk status for anyone under 25. No way is that going on in this. But man, oh man, Griffin being able to deliver on the hype, on the potential so early for his own career, never mind FlyQuest and what's going on right now, is one of the most exciting stories in the LCS.
And the other exciting side at the 0-1, we got to see the level up from Team Liquid. They bounced back. It wasn't Jan on the day that you were highlighting. It was a solo lane gap. Both Morgan against Fudge and Quid against Zinni, who's still kind of warming up to the LCS side of things. But we were going, man, whoever drops to 0-2, you're going to be worried about that matchup. I'm not so worried about Shopify at this level with what Team Liquid just did to them.
No, I think you're still waiting for Shopify to truly wake up and showcase their form. I think that is certainly something that hasn't quite fully woken up or arrived yet so far this year. But for Team Liquid to get arrival performances from Morgan, from Quid in the mid lane, are very important check marks that you needed to get back towards that top contending status within the LCS. So to see that here in this series is a very good sign for Team Liquid.
Really, the only egregious thing out of them on the Rift is that TLAW Alienware T-Law acronym that we got coming out now.
It's too much. I look, I'm all one for the acronyms. I'm all one for some of that sponsorship money. Let's keep it flowing. Let's keep things reasonable for the broadcast as well, okay?
Shades of TSM FTX. Alienware's not in the same scummy category as FTX, and I think they'll be just okay and won't go under, but it's too many letters.
It's not a cryptocurrency, which I think is a pretty low bar to clear, but at least we can clear that one with this sponsor.
Just happy to see a competitive Team Liquid, though, to raise up. If FlyQuest is playing like this, Lyon bouncing back, that's like 4 teams you can legit be excited about at the very least, which, by the way, is half of the entire league in this new look LCS. So exciting week 2 action over in North America. Things appear to be slowly getting back to normal in the LPL. We're now post-bin threatened benching, walking away from the team. He's back solo killing people. BLG go 2-0 over the weekend, including a big series win against JDG to kind of pump the brakes. And we finally got to see maybe the best, at least string of games out of Viper since he's come back to the LPL.
Yes, and very much so a stabilization effort from BLG after the whole drama and situation that has gone through. I still remain unchanged in my perspective on it, that I think that yes, for BLG, yes, for Knight, for Viper, you do need to start looking to make a change, whether that is as immediate or a split 2, a split 3, or next year, whatever it's going to work out. I don't envision it continuing with Bin and BLG as that partnership, and I don't think that that's going to work out for either of the parties. That being said, yes, everything stabilizes with these wins and keeping position in the LPL, and thankfully, due to Viper really showing up and showing out there on Summoner's Rift and delivering the level of performance that I think you could expect from him if, as we thought he would be the leading ADC of the LPL.
And, he had some great individual Yunara games. It was kind of a weekend of Yunara having some nasty games in the LPL as Hope as well on Anyone's Legend, who, speaking of the reason the LPL is back in order, BLG get back on track, and AL are again looking like that top tier number 1, number 2 squad in the LPL. This is the 3rd week in a row that we're talking about Tarzan as the jungler of the week.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a pretty familiar thing throughout the LPL this year, is talking about Mr. Tarzan as the king of the jungle. But as well, having Anyone's Legend and BLG back up towards the top is that familiar feeling that we have known from the past year and a half or so in the LPL, and certainly seems to be the shaping up towards what will be the eventual playoffs, is them as the first 2 seeds, and then following up with a mixture of everyone else behind.
Yeah, I mean, the JDG hype got shot down a lot with the Weibo loss and then losing to Anyone's Legend. It was really Jinjia having some suspect both him and JJ had some suspect moments that kind of cost a bet game. But yeah, BLG and anyone's legend. The LPL, it still very much feels like there are not better than 4 teams. Like Top Esports and IG look well on their way to having to play in that play-in stage. And unless there's an LNG or World Elite angle where they show up in playoffs, I don't see more than 4 good teams in the LPL. And of course, Weibo is a suspect 4th team still at this point.
Which is absolutely a change, because there certainly has always been that top dog, top front-running elite tier of squads, whether it's 2 or 3 or whatever in the LPL. Then there is that small handful that's right behind them that are still playoff caliber, and they show you. But then there's always a dark horse or 2, and there doesn't seem to have been anyone that has been able to show out enough or showcase just the nice sparklings enough at Summoner's Rift that you could go with a dark horse type of label yet in the LPL. So that is a bit strange when you are looking at things from that angle. But I think, again, when you are talking about this region and when you're waiting for it, I think that's what we're going to see come playoffs time. I think at the end of the day, it either is going to play out and just simply be the factor that it is those 4 players at the end of the day, whatever, or we will have someone show up as that dark horse that we have almost always seen within the LPL.
And I mean, it doesn't really matter how the regular season wraps up. It just still feels like BLG is more vulnerable than a squad like anyone's legend in terms of, you can call it imploding or not being locked in on the day. This does not feel like that invincible 2024 BLG that wasn't going to drop a series.
No, and the other thing is that you're seeing kind of what are going to be maybe changes happening in the LPL. I've seen rumors about Top Esports with their support position, but I think, again, if you're looking to make a change on that Top Esports roster, a Top Esports roster that doesn't even have Jackie Love starting in it right now, I think that is a crazy type of situation. And as well, I have seen even the rumors about Gengia and JDG due to this down performance in the last couple of weeks. I think that would also be quite a hasty reactionary type of move if you were to change from that point right now.
Split 1 does seem a little early to be making any of these sweeping moves, especially when there are these 3 international events to be worrying about. So pump the brakes a little, LPL. Let things play out, see what the landscape is looking like. But that is it today for Liga Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you, absolute stunners. Thanks for hanging out as always, and we will catch you on that flippity flip.